Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, check your bank account, and discover that overnight, the government has taken 20% of your savings. No warning, no vote, no explanation, just gone. You'd be furious, right? You'd demand answers. You'd vote them out. You'd probably take to the streets. But here's the thing. This happens to you every single day and you don't even notice. The government has perfected a collection of financial tricks, schemes that have been refined over thousands of years, designed to transfer your wealth into their pockets without you ever realizing what's happening. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented historical facts, policies that are happening right now, and techniques that every government in history has used to stay in power while keeping their citizens broke. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how they do it, and more importantly, how you can protect yourself. Hey, I'm Brandon, and welcome back to My Money Mint, the channel where I dive into topics related to money and wealth. All right, let's get into it. Let me take you back to ancient Rome. 3rd century AD, you're a Roman citizen. You've saved your money in silver denarii, and you're feeling financially secure. But emperor after emperor faces the same problem. Wars to fund, buildings to construct, soldiers to pay, and not enough money in the treasury. So they come up with a brilliant solution. Instead of raising taxes and facing angry citizens, they simply reduce the amount of silver in each coin. Start with 95% silver, drop it to 90%, then 80%, then 50%. By the end, Roman silver coins contained less than 2% actual silver. They had become worthless copper with a thin silver coating. But here's the genius. Each individual debasement was small enough that most people didn't notice. The coins looked the same, felt the same, but collectively, these minor adjustments destroyed the savings of an entire empire. Now you might think, that's ancient history. Surely modern governments wouldn't do something so obvious. Wrong. Since 1971, when Nixon ended the gold standard, the US dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. What cost $1 in 1971 costs almost $8 today. Your government has been quietly devaluing your money for over 50 years, using the exact same technique as Roman emperors. They just don't have to physically melt down coins anymore. They can do it with a computer keystroke. Jump forward to medieval Europe, where kings perfected the forced loan. Picture yourself as a wealthy merchant in Tudor England. You've built a successful business. Then, one day, a royal messenger arrives. His Majesty requires a loan of £500 for the defense of the realm. You ask, when will this be repaid? When His Majesty deems it appropriate? And if I refuse? That would be unpatriotic. You wouldn't want to lose your trading privileges or face questions about your loyalty. This wasn't really a loan. It was extortion with extra steps. Refuse and face fines, loss of business licenses, or worse. Accept and kiss your money goodbye. Modern governments have simply refined this technique. They don't call them forced loans. They call them emergency measures, economic stimulus, or quantitative easing. But the principle is the same. Your wealth gets transferred to the government, whether you agree or not. In 1694, one of history's most successful financial scams was born, the Bank of England. Here's how this brilliant system worked. Wealthy investors would lend money to the government. The government would pay interest on this debt. And where would the government get money to pay this interest? From taxes collected from ordinary citizens. Think about this. Rich lenders get guaranteed returns, backed by the government's power to tax, while working people pay those taxes to fund the rich people's profits. It's like a perpetual motion machine for wealth extraction. The wealthy lend money to the government promises to pay it back with interest, and then forces everyone else to pay the taxes that fund those interest payments. This became the model for every central banking system, including the Federal Reserve. Today, when the government issues bonds, wealthy investors buy them, earning guaranteed returns, while your tax dollars pay the interest. In 2024, the US government paid $881 billion in interest payments, more than it spent on national defense. You're literally paying wealthy bondholders to lend money to your own government. The 2008 financial crisis perfectly demonstrates this trick. Wall Street banks made incredibly risky bets with other people's money. They created toxic financial products. And when it all collapsed, who paid the price? Not the banks. You did. The government stepped in with TARP and other bailout programs, spending hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars to rescue the very institutions that caused the crisis. The banks got bailed out. Their executives kept their bonuses, and within a few years, they were making record profits again. Meanwhile, millions of Americans lost their homes, their savings, and their financial security. It's the ultimate example of privatize the profits, socialize the losses. When banks make money, they keep it. When they lose money, you pay for it. This isn't a one-time thing, it's a system. Every major financial crisis follows the same pattern. The wealthy get rescued, while ordinary people get the bill. After 2008, the Federal Reserve launched quantitative easing, which sounds complicated but is actually simple. It's legalized counterfeiting. The Federal Reserve creates new money out of thin air and uses it to buy government bonds and securities. This floods the financial system with cash, driving up prices of stocks, bonds, and real estate. But who benefits? The people who own those assets, which is primarily the wealthy. If you own stocks, real estate, or bonds, quantitative easing makes you richer. If you don't own assets, if you live paycheck to paycheck, this makes you poorer. Why? Because all that new money dilutes the purchasing power of existing money, creating inflation that hits the poor hardest, while inflating asset bubbles that benefit the rich. Since 2008, the Federal Reserve has created over $8 trillion through QE programs. This created massive wealth inequality, as asset prices soared while wages stagnated. The wealthy got much wealthier, while everyone else got left behind. Most government pension systems, including Social Security, operate on pay-as-you-go. Current workers pay in, and that money immediately goes to current retirees. This sounds reasonable, until you understand the math. When Social Security was created, there were 16 workers for every retiree. Today, there are fewer than 3 workers per retiree. By 2035, there will be only 2.3 workers per retiree. The system only works with a growing population forever. But populations are aging, birth rates are falling, and the math is becoming impossible. What happens when there aren't enough workers? The government has 3 options: cut benefits, breaking promises to people who paid in their entire lives, raise taxes, meaning younger generations pay more for less benefits, or print money to cover the shortfall, creating inflation that erodes those benefits anyway. The baby boomers paid into a system with 16 workers supporting each retiree. Millennials will pay into a system with 2 workers supporting each retiree, while likely receiving reduced benefits. Perhaps the most insidious trick is inflation, what economists call the hidden tax. When the government creates new money, it dilutes the purchasing power of all existing money. Your savings, your wages, your pension, everything becomes worth less, but it affects different people differently. If you're wealthy and your wealth is in assets like stocks or real estate, inflation can actually help you. Your assets rise in nominal value, while your fixed-rate debts become easier to pay off. But if you're middle class or poor, if your wealth is in a savings account, if you live on a fixed income, inflation destroys you. It's the most regressive tax imaginable. It hits hardest those who can least afford it, while benefiting those who need help least. And the beautiful thing, from the government's perspective, is that most people don't even understand it's happening. They blame greedy corporations or supply chain issues, not realizing that inflation is primarily a monetary phenomenon. When the government creates trillions of new dollars, prices go up. It's not complicated, but they've convinced most people it's mysterious and unavoidable. In the 1930s, Senator Ferdinand Pecora conducted hearings that exposed massive financial abuses leading up to the Great Depression. The hearings revealed that banks were selling worthless securities to customers while secretly betting against them. They were hiding bad loans through shell companies. Some of the wealthiest men in America were paying 0 income tax while working families lost everything. These weren't accidents or market forces. These were deliberate strategies to transfer wealth from the many to the few. The Pecora hearings led to reforms like Glass-Steagall. But here's the thing. Those reforms were gradually dismantled over the following decades. And by 2008, we were right back where we started. Why? Because the people who benefit from these tricks have the money and power to change the rules back in their favor. So what can you do to protect yourself from these wealth extraction schemes? First, understand what's happening. The government and financial institutions depend on your ignorance. They use complex terminology and abstract concepts to hide what are essentially simple theft mechanisms. Second, get out of their rigged game. Don't keep all your wealth and assets they can devalue at will. Diversify into real assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, things that hold value when currencies collapse. Third, understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out. The wealthy accumulate assets, the poor accumulate liabilities. Fourth, learn about tax strategies. The wealthy use the same tax code as everyone else. They just understand it better. Legal tax avoidance isn't just for the rich, it's for anyone willing to learn the rules. Fifth, build multiple income streams. Don't depend on a single job or pension that can be inflated away or eliminated. Create businesses, investments, and income sources that you control. Sixth, stay educated. These tricks evolve constantly. What worked to steal wealth in ancient Rome has been refined and updated for the modern world. You need to stay ahead of their schemes. Here's what's fascinating. These same tricks appear in every civilization throughout history. Ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, medieval Europe, modern America. The names change, the technology evolves, but the fundamental mechanisms remain the same. Currency debasement, forced loans, central banking, bailouts, inflation, pension schemes. They're all variations on the same theme. Transferring wealth from the productive to the powerful. And they work because most people don't understand money, don't understand how these systems operate, and don't realize they're being robbed until it's too late. The government has spent centuries perfecting the art of wealth extraction. They've learned how to take your money without you even noticing, how to make you grateful for the privilege, and how to blame someone else when you figure it out. Currency debasement makes your savings worth less. Central banking makes you pay interest to wealthy bondholders. Bailouts make you pay for rich people's mistakes. Quantitative easing inflates asset bubbles you can't afford to participate in. Pension schemes transfer wealth between generations. And inflation taxes you without representation. These aren't accidents. They're not market forces. They're not natural phenomena. They're policies designed by smart people to benefit smart people at your expense. The only way to protect yourself is to understand the game, learn the rules, and position yourself on the right side of these wealth transfers. Because make no mistake, these transfers are happening whether you participate or not. The only question is, are you going to be on the side that gets richer or the side that gets robbed? The choice is yours, but you have to make it with full knowledge of what's really happening. Don't let them keep you broke through ignorance. Learn their tricks, protect your wealth, and build a financial future they can't steal from you. Thank you for watching My Money Mint.